Good evening and welcome to Face to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Niresh Eliatambi. Tomorrow, the 30th of July, is the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, which is a very important day indeed. And that's something that Sri Lanka has been involved in and commemorated for several years now. I am pleased to welcome to the studio two members of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. They are Major Sandun Gunawardane, who is a member of the task force and a legal officer attached to the Ministry of Defence, and Lieutenant Colonel Udaya Jayaratne, a member of the task force and a senior staff officer in the Ministry of Defence. Good evening and welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Good evening, Niresh. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. So let me start with Colonel Jayaratne. Why is this day so significant to the world and to Sri Lanka?
Thank you, Mr. Niresh. So first of all, on behalf of the chairman and all members of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the Capital Maharaja Group and Maharaja Media Network for giving us this valuable opportunity to educate the general public and raise awareness about human trafficking on this special occasion when people around the globe observe the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. So if I talk about the significance of the Day Against Trafficking in Persons, this human trafficking is a serious violation of human rights, and as we know, it is illegal, immoral and unethical. So due to its organized nature and rapid expansion, human trafficking has become one of the fastest growing forms of organized crime in the world. So this is not a challenge faced by one particular country, but this has become a global challenge. And therefore, in order to effectively address this issue, one specific day has been designated to draw the attention of the entire world to the importance of preventing, suppressing and eradicating human trafficking from and prosecuting the offenders and rescuing the innocent victims from the clutches of the human traffickers. So accordingly, 30th July is tomorrow is recognized as the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and this day also highlights the importance of strengthening the cooperation and partnership among the nations and organizations and also relevant stakeholders to collaboratively combat the human trafficking or the trafficking trafficking of persons in an organized and effective manner. So that is the significance of tomorrow's Day Against the Trafficking in Persons.
Right, very well put indeed. Major Sandun, can I ask you, now this year's theme for this day tomorrow is the trap behind the scam. What does it mean? What is the scam that is being referred to?
Yeah, Niresh, so as you very well pointed out, the underlying theme of this year is the trap behind the scam. So it's very practical to discuss about scam at first. So practically speaking, Niresh, there is no universally accepted one single definition for the term scam. You know why? There is a plethora of scams around the globe. For instance, investment scams, the lottery scams, romance scams, and some other cyber scams. So as a result of that, we cannot give a common definition for the term of scams, but having considered the nature and
the purposes of that particular scam, we can come to a conclusion. So Nilesh, now when we very carefully examine the nature and the purposes of various type of scams, we can find some common elements. So basically exploitation, deception and false promises can be found in any type of scam. And also instead of one single criminal, so there may be a group of persons, collectively they are working together to deceive person for exploitation. And also so behind the scams, there is a set of persons who are gaining material benefits or monetary considerations. They are expecting that. So commonly, so having considered the natures and the gravity of these type of scams, we can come to conclusions accordingly. A scam can be defined as a dishonest or fraudulent scheme designed to deceive vulnerable persons for their private gain.
Right. Now, when you say vulnerable persons, what does that mean?
Yes, especially Nilesh, now include vulnerable persons, including especially children and women, and also especially the people who are expecting the rapid economic development and the luxurious lifestyles. So basically through the cyberspace, the criminals can easily hoodwink that type of peoples, and at the end of the day they will become the victims of scams.
I see. Colonel Jayaratne, can I ask you to explain something about the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, which we have heard a lot about it over the years. It is very active indeed. But for the benefit of our viewers, could you explain what it is?
Yes, Naresh, to start with the one clear sentence to explain what the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force is. The National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force is Sri Lanka's national coordinating mechanism in fighting against the human trafficking or the trafficking in persons. So our role is to bring all relevant ministries, departments and institutions and authorities together to ensure the country's response to human trafficking in a coordinated and effective and in a victim-centered approach. So having considered the nature of this crime and the rapid exploitation, the expansion of this crime around the globe, in Sri Lanka in the year 2010, the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force was established under the Ministry of Justice, and later in 2021, the chairmanship of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force was transferred to the Ministry of Defense, and the sole purpose of transferring this chairmanship of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force to the Ministry of Defense was mainly to strengthen the coordination and most importantly to obtain the support of intelligence agencies in order to effectively function this task force and also to effectively fight against this heinous crime of human trafficking. So as I said, the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force consists of representatives from multiple ministries, departments and the authorities and commissions and all other relevant stakeholders. So these include the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Public Security and Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Women and Child Affairs and Ministry of Health and Ministry of Public Administration and etc. So in addition to these key institutions, and there are some other elements also involved in this effort of combating human trafficking. Those are basically criminal investigation department and the Attorney General's Department, and Department of Immigration and Emigration, the National Child Protection Authority, the Victims of Crime and Witnesses Assistance and Protection Authority, the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption, which is the main investigative agency within the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, and Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau. So, other than that, there are some other relevant stakeholders that those are coming under the umbrella of National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force in combating the human trafficking. So, all these multiple agencies and institutions work together with their mandates and with a common objective of preventing human trafficking and protect victims and strengthening the investigations and finally bringing the offenders before the court of law.
Excellent. So it's a very wide-ranging and very powerful task force, and shows that the government of Sri Lanka, has always placed a lot of importance and emphasis on battling human trafficking. Right. Major Sandun, let's get back to the definition of human trafficking. What do we mean by that term, human trafficking?
Well, without going into complex legal terms, if I simply explain about human trafficking, first we can say this is also a transaction. So, Niresh, in any ordinary transaction, there should be main three elements. The first and foremost, there should be a seller, and secondly, there should be a buyer, and thirdly and most importantly, there should be an item or object or something like that to be sold. So, most disturbing aspect of human trafficking, unlike in other ordinary transaction, this object is also recognized as a human being very pathetically. So, you all will agree with me, no person will voluntarily consent for a sale or exploitation. So, the traffickers, organized criminals, they have various ways and means to get this consent in a very cunning manner and to exploit them. So, by way of force, by way of fraud, inducement, deception, in addition to that, sometimes the criminals may misuse the vulnerability of the persons for human trafficking. For instance, now where a person is struggling from monetary issues, monetary problems, the criminals can easily deceive that type of person, promising foreign employment or any other local employment or with decent salaries and facilities and etc. etc. At the end of the day, that person will become a victim of human trafficking. So, this will lead to some other question also. Now, what are the purposes of human trafficking? Why people are doing these type of things? So, exploitation is there, especially the children and women may be subjected to sexual exploitations, and the forced labor is there. So, a trafficked person may be employed in various type of trades, whether it is legal or illegal. Sometimes they will not be paid. So, now in parallel to the advancement of human rights, the people may think that the slavery is over, but it has come in a modern form. That is why human trafficking is recognized as the modern slavery. In addition to that, organ removal is there. That is one of the purposes of human trafficking. And also some people will employ in the warfare, international conflicts. So, these are the main purposes of human trafficking. So, having considered all these things, Naresh, I can say that the members of the human family are selling and exploiting their own members for the personal gains. That is a very pathetic situation. That is human trafficking.
Right, so it is for a wide variety of users of human beings. It could be simply labor or sexual exploitation, or it could be, as we have seen in the Ukraine war, our former soldiers are being recruited and trafficked over there to fight in that war. So this is all human trafficking. It's not one particular aspect.
Nilesh, a very good question. So now in human trafficking, the people, the trafficked person are employed in that particular trade without the consent of that particular person. So if he is doing with the consent, that is not subjected to human trafficking. So now, as you mentioned in the Ukraine and Russia, the international conflict, there were some people who have joined voluntarily. So that type of issues cannot be taken as human trafficking. But if someone has been exploited and without the consent, so it is absolutely subjected to the human trafficking. So when it comes to the children, so this consent is immaterial. So with consent or without consent, where a child is trafficked, exploited, so it is absolutely subjected to the human trafficking.
I see. Colonel Udaya, let me ask you to describe a little bit more about the task force itself, which is a very important institution. So could you tell us about the objectives, the mandate, and the responsibilities as well?
Well, Nilesh, National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, together with our member institutions, we mainly focus on several key objectives. So if I mention one by one, the task force is mainly involved and monitor the whole process of from victim identification to reintegration process until they have been reintegrated to the society. And we also initiate all possible measures to prevent, suppress, and to eradicate human trafficking from our country. And we initiate actions to prosecute the offenders, and also we build strong partnerships with and networks with relevant national and international partners to ensure the protection of victims of human trafficking. And our main approach in response to human trafficking is mainly based on 4 pillars, that is prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership. So when it's come to prevention, we believe that creating public awareness is one of the most important strategies in combating this human trafficking from our society. So therefore, we conduct awareness programs targeting different groups within the general public, including the government officials, public officials, then school children, and even the university students, and also the vulnerable community, as Sandun mentioned. Then we also conduct capacity building programs for law enforcement officers, then government officials and other relevant all stakeholders to enhance their knowledge and skills in especially identifying the trafficking networks, then conducting the investigations, and then protecting victims, and finally bringing the offenders before the court of law. In addition, the members of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, even the members and the committee members of the internal committee, we take part in publishing the research articles and participate in educative television programs and the discussions like we have participated today. And also we contribute educative articles to newspapers and all media platforms to educate the general public, especially the nature of this crime and also the signs of this crime, to make them aware, to take the preventive measures, and also at the same time, as this is a transnational organized crime, so strengthening the cooperation is one of the most important aspects of this effort in combating human trafficking. So the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, we established coordination with national and international partners in way of memorandum of understanding and bilateral agreements and multilateral arrangements, and as I said, with relevant national and international partners. So through these partnerships, we help to strengthen information sharing and also to facilitate mutual legal assistance whenever needed with in relation to the investigations that we undertake. And furthermore, through the institutions such as the Victims of Crime and Witnesses Assistance and Protection Authority and the Department of Probation and Child Care Services and judicial medical authorities and other relevant agencies, we take necessary measures to provide protection, assistance and support the victims of human trafficking. And so ultimately we undertake these efforts with one common objective of to prevent human trafficking and dismantling the trafficking networks and ensure justice for offenders, and also especially the protecting the dignity and the rights of the victims.
Right. You mentioned the partnerships, both with national organizations and international ones. Would you like to give our viewers a little bit of an understanding of the international partnerships? Which international institutions are active in this area?
Thank you for the question, Neeraj. Actually, most of the programs or the seminars, workshops, capacity building programs were funded and supported by United Nations Office for Drugs and Crimes and the International Organization for Migration, and especially we close very collaboratively with the Bali process, where they have been continuously extending their helping hand to combat the human trafficking in our country.
Right, and of course the Capital Maharaja Group has been very heavily involved in actively supporting the Bali process for many years, and is proud to be a partner in that. We need to take a short commercial break right now. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
ඔයා පොට්ටයිද? මේ තියෙන්නේ
ලේසි වෙන්නේ ටක් ගාලා ත්‍රිවිලයක් දාන්න ડોක්ටර් ගාවට යන්න. මේ යනකොට අපි මේ අත්කාචිකුත් ගෙනෙමු. පරස් ගාලා ඇසිලා එන්නකෝ. දැන් ආන්ටිට පුළුවන් නම් පල්ලියෙන් කතා කරන්න කියලා හිතාචි වෙලා අයින් කරලා අරන් දෙන්නකෝ.
නිකන් නැති ප්‍රශ්න හදාගන්න එපා. බෝවිටිය මානේ කාර් එක දාලා ඒ කොල්ල බහැලා යනවා උන් දෙන්නම දැකලා තියෙනවද?
අද රාත්‍රී 8:30ට
Sirasa Telethirayen.
This sky is limitless, and this sky belongs to all of us. A day where different rhythms, unique ideas, and vibrant colors paint our entire horizon for the very first time. Witness the wonders lighting up the sky.
Sirasa TV Magic International Kite Festival 2026.
Come witness the magic with your own eyes. August 2nd, be there at the Mathara Beach Park.
Sirasa TV Magic International Kite Festival 2026.
මොන දේ වුණත් තමුන්ගේ ලේලි දන්නවා කොහොමද තමුන්ව ගොනටන් දන්නේ කියලා.
අහනගේ ආර්යමන්ගේ කසාදේ වළංගු නැහැ.
අද දවසේ මමත් රාධිකාව මගේම බිරිඳ කරගන්නවා.
ඔයාගේ ආදරයාට කියන්නකෝ. මං කිව්වා අද එයා එක්ක මං එන්ගේජ් වෙනවා.
අද රාත්‍රී 9:30ට Sirasa Telethirayen.
A nation that has faced countless trials. In the midst of raging flames of war, when every breath was a struggle, we never gave up. When the devastating tsunami swept everything in its path, we held on to love even tighter. We found the strength to rise again. We are Sri Lankans, a remarkable nation that has never abandoned the fight for life. A nation that always stands up for one another. A nation that refuses to be broken, no matter how many challenges stand in our way. The conscience of such a noble nation.
Sirasa Lakshapati, proudly Sri Lanka.
ග්‍රේෂන් මහත්තයා ඉන්නවද?
කවුද කතා කරන්නේ? කෝල් එකක් ආවා.
කාගෙන්ද?
සංක කියලා යාළුවෙක්ගේ.
ගල්වලේ කුමාරයාගේ සීන් එක අපි දාමු ග්‍රේෂන්ගේ පැත්තට. කෝල් දෙකයි. මේක කොහොම හරි අංජනයක පිටින් කරකවන්න බලන්න ඕන.
මේ ඉන්න එකම පාතාලේ ගවු නෙමෙයි.
වෙන්න ඕන මොකද්ද කියලා කියන්න. එයාට ෂොට් එක දෙමු.
අහංකාර ආදරේ
අද රාත්‍රී 9ට සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්.
This weekend and every weekend, TV1 brings you the adrenaline of Aussie Rules football. For the very first time on Sri Lankan free-to-air television, feel the hits, the spectacular marks, and the roar of the crowd. Every weekend, catch AFL action exclusively on TV1 every Sunday at 9:45 p.m. Don't miss a moment, because every mark, every goal, every victory is right here. TV1, the home of AFL, for millions of Sri Lankans. Brought to you in partnership with ABC Australia.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I am with Lieutenant Colonel Udaya Jayaratne and Major Sandun Gunawardane, who are members of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. Major Sandun, could you explain the link between the scams that you mentioned earlier and human trafficking? How does the scam become a trap and lead into the process of human trafficking?
That's a very good question, Niresh, because the theme is in relation to this particular question. So, as I mentioned earlier, Niresh, scam is a crime recognized by the penal law because exploitation is there, the fraudulent acts are there. So, basically, under any penal law, the scam is recognized as a punishable offense. So, similarly, as I discussed earlier, one of the purposes of human trafficking is exploiting person through forced criminality. So, sometimes the trafficked persons may be forcefully employed in cyber scams or any type of scam. So, there is a link between human trafficking and scam. But every scam does not amount to human trafficking. So, in order to commit this particular offense, I mean human trafficking, so scams may be used as a tool. So, for instance, romance scam, in romance scam, so a criminal can deceive a young woman approaching to her and building the trust through the social media platforms or using other online platforms. So, by promising marriage or settlement abroad or a luxurious life, by way of that type of things, step by step, that person can be deceived. At the end of the day, she will be a victim of human trafficking, and sometimes she will be compelled to engage in criminal activities. So there is a link between human trafficking and scams. That is why that if we analyze the trap behind scam, actually this trap is the human trafficking. So the other scams are used as a tool to commit this particular offense in a very organized manner by the organized criminal.
Right. Colonel Udaya, there's some confusion between the terms human trafficking and human smuggling. Could you explain the difference there?
Well, this is again very important and very pertinent question as far as these two terms are concerned, because the human trafficking and human smuggling are often misinterpreted and misunderstood by many in most of the occasions. So, but however, legally and even in practice, they are two different concepts. So, if I talk about the human smuggling in Sri Lanka, human smuggling is recognized as illegal migration under the Immigration and Emigration Act, and it involves the illegal movement of a person from one country to another, and usually with the person's informed consent and in exchange for a financial benefit. Then this primarily objective of the smuggler is to facilitate the illegal entry from one country to another, and once the person reaches the destination, the relationship between the smuggler and the person who's been smuggled, so it usually ends. So that is the about the human smuggling. But when it's come to human trafficking, it involves the recruitment, then the transportation, and then the transfer and harboring, and even the control of that particular person who's been trafficked. The traffickers, they take the control in way of force, then threats, then the fraud and deception and coercion, and even the abusing of vulnerability for the purpose of exploitation. So in human trafficking, the exploitation is the key element. Then and also a person can be a victim of human trafficking and even without crossing the international border.
I see.
So it can happen within the country, even within the city, even the own village. So if I just bring out the difference between these two terms in a very simple way, in human trafficking, it does not necessarily involve crossing a border, but as I said before, it can occur within the national borders as well. And but in a human smuggling, it involves a regular international border crossing.
Right.
Then in human trafficking, it always involves the use of force, coercion, and deception. And as he very correctly mentioned, in human smuggling, there is no consent. The consent is involved, and there is no use of force because he is being smuggled with his consent with the smuggler. And here in the human trafficking, the person is considered as a commodity, whereas in human smuggling, the service is considered as the commodity.
Right.
Then just to bring out one similarity as well in human trafficking and human smuggling, this involves the involvement of the human the crime syndicates involved in both these crimes.
It's organized crime.
Organized crimes. Then there is again the ill treatment and the violence and the violation of human rights are involved in both these crimes. So those are the differences and the similarities that we can identify in both the crimes.
Right. Now, Major Sandun, could you tell us, with regard to Sri Lankan law, what is the legal position when it comes to human trafficking? And there are certain international principles such as forced criminality and the non-punishment principle, how are those applied as well?
Well, Niresh, now Sri Lanka is a signatory to the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. And also Sri Lanka has ratified the special protocol introduced to prevent, suppress and prosecute trafficking in person. This is commonly identified as Palama Protocol. So having considered the laws and regulations embedded in this international legal instrument, the Act number 16 of 2006 was introduced as an amendment act to the Sri Lankan Penal Code. So in terms of section 360C subarticle 1 of the said act, the human trafficking is recognized as a severely punishable offense. So where an accused person is convicted for this particular offense, he can be punished with the imprisonment from 2 years to 20 years. In addition to that, a fine can also be imposed. So where this offense is committed a child, the minimum punishment will be started from 3 years, that can also be extended to 20 years. Additionally, a fine can also be enforced. So when we very carefully examine the section 360C of the Penal Code with the together with the provisions of Code of Criminal Procedure and its schedules, so this offence is recognized as a cognizable offence. So any peace officer without a court warrant, he can arrest a suspect of human trafficking, and also this is recognized as a non-compoundable offence. So there is no room for any type of settlement. So where the suspect is identified, he should be produced before the court and punished according to the laws and regulations. No settlement between the victim and the trafficker. And also it is identified as a non-bailable offence. So at the police station or at the magistrate court level, a suspect cannot be released on bail. The bail application should be submitted to the relevant high court with the jurisdiction in that particular area. So we have having considered all these things, we have the robust legal mechanism to fight against human trafficking. So as you mentioned about the forced criminality, so we have already touched upon that particular subject area slightly. So as the purposes of human trafficking, the forced criminality is there. So basically in forced criminality, a person is compelled or forced to commit any criminal offense. So without the intention, that person has to do that, because as he is under the clutches of human traffickers. Sometimes in a country of destination, the passports of the victims are taken by the culprits, and also sometimes they have to, as a result of that, they have to completely depend on the traffickers. So they have to dance to the tunes of the human traffickers at the end of the day. So the intention is not there. Now, in criminal law, in order to constitute any criminal offense, so we have to prove main two elements, the actus reus and mens rea, the act and the intention of the person. But in forced criminality, the person has no that intention, but he has been compelled to do that. Therefore, non-punishment principle is applicable. So we are not taking legal action against that person. Instead of that, we are taking legal action against the perpetrators. So that is the non-punishment principle in a nutshell.
Right, wonderful. Colonel Udaya, tell us about the main programs and initiatives of the task force throughout the year.
Well, Niresh, there are certain ongoing and initiatives and programs undertaken by the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. So whatever the projects or the programs and initiatives that we undertake are basically based on 4 pillars. That is the prevention, as I mentioned before, the prevention, protection, prosecution, and the partnerships. And these projects and the programs and initiatives are implemented in close collaboration with national stakeholders and also the international partners, as I mentioned, the UNODC, IOM, and also the Bali process. So, if I mention about few key programs and initiatives that we have undertaken, the National Strategic Action Plan for 2026 to 2030, that is a 5-year plan. So, we launched it in this year, and whatever the projects, the initiatives and the programs that we undertake, we consider the NSAP or the National Strategic Action Plan as the roadmap to guide our actions. Then establishment of district anti-traffic forums. So far we have established the district anti-traffic forums in Kalutara, Kandy, and Trincomalee and Kurunegala. These districts were, we decided at the initial stage depending on the cases reported, and so plans are afoot to establish next district anti-traffic forums in Jaffna and Mena district. So that was a very recent initiative that was taken by the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. So after establishing these district anti-traffic forums, we intend to enhance the coordination among the district level government officers and law enforcement agencies, then the civil society and the all community stakeholders, those who are directly involved in combating this human trafficking issue. Then National Media Awareness Campaign, which was launched in 2025 under the support, with the support of International Organization for Migration, and which is an ongoing program. And this was mainly focused to raise the awareness of the general public about the trends and the signs of human trafficking, and also about the preventive measures. Then we also had public awareness and community outreach by member institutions of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. As I mentioned before, there are 23 member institutions with the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. So they also regularly conduct awareness sessions to educate the general public. So they are targeted groups, like I mentioned, the school and university students, then youth and vulnerable communities, and migrant workers, and especially the job seekers, then community-based organizations. So we conduct these programs to make aware the general public and to make them aware and informed while they are making their decisions to when they are seeking for job opportunities. Then empowering Grama Nilidhari officers, which was a very good initiative taken by the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. Initially, we conducted a workshop for the administrative Grama Nilidharis, and comprised of 283 administrative Grama Nilidharis, and we have now initiated conducting training programs for Grama Nilidharis. So there are about 12,452 Grama Nilidharis around the country. So empowering these Grama Nilidharis, the first action what we took was from the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. We included this human trafficking as a criminal offence to the Grama Nilidharis diary. So thereby we empowered them to investigate into this crime. And that was a very good initiative. And then was the capacity development of government officers. There we conducted continuous training programs for police officers, then immigration officials, then labor officers, social service officers and child protection officers, and prosecutors, and also frontline officials. So these were some of the key initiatives and programs that we undertook from the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force side.
Quite an enormous number of programs, I must say. We are unfortunately almost out of time. So can I ask each of you gentlemen to leave us with a message for the wider audience? Colonel Udaya Jayaratne.
Thank you, Niresh. So, as human trafficking is an organized crime, we need the support of and cooperation of every member of the society to combat this heinous crime of human trafficking or the trafficking persons from our soil. And therefore, we kindly invite every one of you to join hands with us and protecting our own members and our loved ones. And do not allow the traffickers to deceive you or your loved ones, and we have to protect their future. So to achieve that, awareness, vigilance and timely action are the strongest tools if we are to protect or prevent the human trafficking from our country. Thank you.
Major Sandun, your final thoughts?
Yeah, in conclusions, we would leave our audience with this message. So if something appears to be free, remember that at the end of the day, you will be the product. So be aware, be vigilant, and use any type of opportunity with very carefully. So of course, then you will be safe. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to us to create awareness among the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Colonel Udaya Jayaratne and Major Sandun Gunawardane, members of the National Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank you, Niresh.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next, as always. Have a great evening.